Welcome to our new global media talk show. Today is November 23rd, 2025. So today we're gonna talk about spending, how the government can reduce spending, or what are the things that are causing us to spend a lot. So I have my co-host here, Sam Ceesay. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I'm your host
Yep,
here,
it's
Momodou
good.
Sawaneh. So Sam, we have seen that the National Assembly have reduced about 16 million from the budget of the president's office of the president. It
Hmm.
used to be the public. It says the National Assembly has adopted a recommendation of its Finance and Public Accounts Committee (FPAC) to reduce 16.6 million from 740 million proposed for the office of the president in 2026. So out of the money taken from the office of the president, 6 million is allocated to sectors, while 7 million was saved. What do you think about this? Is this a good idea?
Absolutely. Anytime you can spend, reduce the spending, is a good thing without compromising security. And I know for sure that reducing the budget, reducing the president's budget, especially, is not a bad idea because most of the funds put into the under the president's budget, or some of the funds put under the president in the president's budget includes things that may not be necessary or things that are only spending and not bringing anything for the taxpayers. So reducing that is a good thing, and I'm glad the National Assembly are stepping up because they should not be a National Assembly that's gonna sit there and approve every single bill that comes without a challenge. They need to be able to scrutinize. National Assembly should always remember that they were elected just like the president was. They were elected to represent the people in their different or respective constituencies. So they need to understand that and do what is right for the country without looking into anything else other than the best thing for the country. And reducing the budget or asking the budget to be reduced by that amount, I mean, I can tell you this: 16.6 million dollars. uh, you can get 8 fishing trawlers out of that. 8 fishing trawlers, because I looked at the cost of fishing trawlers. They're just like a standard brand new fishing trawlers that you can get. A bargain price is about $23,000. $23,000 is only about 1.5 million, right? About 1.5 million in Gambia. So think about that. So just to be on the safe side, if I round that to 1.5 million, it's probably 1.6 plus million. But if I say I'm going to round it up to 2 million, all right, 2 million, let's round it up to 2 million. 2 million can get 8 fishing trawlers that we can put in our waters and put our youths in it, get them trained and develop and get ready to go fishing and bring the fish to our local market so it can help reduce the cost of fish for the people, for the taxpayers. So when you're making a budget, you've got to keep the taxpayers in mind. What can you do to help the taxpayers? Not what can you do to help your pocket, to help your luxury, to help themselves, to do the things that are just incidental expenses, nothing that is going to benefit the taxpayer. So reducing it is a good thing. I think I will commend the National Assembly members for that. This should have been done even last year. I think the president's budget is way too much. And we all see the spending, all the things that they do in the president's office and what they spend, the meet the people store, um, the unnecessary entourage that goes with the president, all the office people, that goes with the president. You have the ministries and their different directors, people that really have nothing to do with the tour, people that are only going to the tour to collect per diem. All right, they're going to collect per diem. but they are not there to contribute anything or answer any questions or do anything that benefits the taxpayers. So no need for those people to go. Um, I think the president himself could really um, think about this very well moving forward to help reduce that bill because it's way too much, and especially, I mean, any wise person, especially from a presidential standpoint, and anybody, even any individual at your own home, if we take it by, take it for ourselves. If you think about your home, the funds that you have, the money that you have in your bank account, what should you use that money for? I mean, most of it should be benefiting your family, not you individually to go do certain things. So the president need to look at it from that standpoint. That what he is doing when he goes on this presidential tour, Meet the People's tour, is costing taxpayers a lot of money. Well, that same taxpayers are saying there's not enough bed in the hospitals. There are not enough medicine in the hospitals. They don't have the basic necessities to be able to live. The cost of living is very high. If the president will cut that budget and fund something that will make their lives better, it's better than seeing the president with a big with a big entourage, on a tour. Is if you think about it from a taxpayer's standpoint, when the president come, when do they get? What do they get? They just go see a motorcade and see all these people and collect a lot of dust there, inhale a lot of dust, and then go sit down and listen to people talking. Some will talk about things that make sense. Some don't talk about anything that makes sense for them. Anything that doesn't help. And they don't talk about. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them will talk about things that really has nothing to do with them, does not make sense to them, does not help them one way or the other. So I think cutting that budget is very important. I'll stop here for a minute.
Very good. So this budget, they said that the 6 million, they will use about 16 million. Six of them will go to, other causes, and then the other ones will go to other departments. And sorry, 10 millions will be saved. Now, this is kind of expenses that we are seeing, something that we never seen before in the history
Yep.
of the country, right? Uh, it is an alarming situation that need
Mm-hmm.
an uphold that need to be halted, because the question gonna be who's gonna be paying for this. The president says on his tour they're gonna build anything, they will spend any money to bring development. But what they fail to understand is development. You look at it in two folds. You want to bring development, yes, but what is how are you planning to pay for that to sustain a lasting economy? I think this is what we are missing. Yeah, we need roads, we need infrastructures, we need hospitals, we need medicines, but you also have to look and balance your budget. If you are gonna be spending this, how much is coming in? How much are we getting? Are we collecting in taxes and revenues? So, if you look at the model that the Western world use, they usually raise taxes for the upper class, the 5% or the 10% or the richest at the 5% upper class. They will they will increase their taxes, because you know what? They are making more. So you're making more, you're paying more on taxes. And what does that taxes do? It subsidize down to people who cannot afford these services. So the same model would work in the fact that, like, if we can collect more taxes and cut costs. So you can see it should be happening in two ways, two folds, in order for us to reduce expenses. But what we are doing, our political leaders, or our leaders, or we can say office of the president or the government, whatever you might call it, they are looking at let's spend, let's spend. We want development. We want to build legacy. Yes, all these are great ideas, but who is paying for it? Anytime you want to spend, you gotta say where is the money coming from. If you don't know the answer to that, you shouldn't spend. I think this is one philosophy that is lacking in our political system or in our way of governance. And number two, you mentioned rightly, you know, the president's budget, so up to that amount is unprecedented, can be kind of, because if you look at it, it's stated here that the president's budget was reduced. I mean, the president 16 million, right? Um, it was reduced by 16 million. So, which is a very good, I mean, very good way to handle this. And I of course, applaud the NAMS for that. And using some of that money to save 10 million to save, which is really, really good because, again, we have to save money and look at other opportunities or other things to spend. That will also help, improve the life condition of the people. And he says that 6.3 million is relocated to other sectors. There are other sectors that are underfunded, like hospitals, like our medical services. So those things, those areas need funding, more funding. So I think this is a great move, and whoever spearhead this, to have National Assembly reduce the 740 million proposed for the office of the presidency, they have really done a wonderful job, and we have to really applaud FPAC chair Elijah Dabo and others who are in this thing. But moving forward, we're going to look at other sectors too. Like we were talking about reducing costs, right? Reducing, salaries and so forth. There are other governmental sectors like the judiciary. So the judiciary, if you look at the judiciary, and then the Electoral Commission, IEC. If you look at their budget, and you look at their budget, and you also look at Ministry of Public Services, all these people, all these areas have higher budgets that need to be looked at. So if you want to consider reducing expenses, we need to look at all these areas, public sectors, public sectors, public sectors. So, in nutshell, reducing costs, we have to just be doing across the board. You cannot just reduce costs just on one sector and that's it. So we need to look at all those areas. But the most important thing here is that we need to factor that we need to have money in order to be able to sustain our economy. And at this point, what it looks like is like they are on a spending spree, you know, because everybody is looking at how to, politically outscore your opponent. So the president is making make the people store, is spending a lot of money. Even last week we discussed that they went so over the budget. I think about close to 200, 174,000 more. So those are things that we need to look at. But again, just to summarize, Sam, you have hit the nail on the head by saying that our problem is we need to cut on all these expenses and make meaningful, budgets that will sustain our economy. So what do you think about other sectors, Sam? That is my question to you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I said, reducing the president's budget is office of the president's budget is key, is very important. Now, one thing we have to remember in Gambia, we continue to take loans and loans and loans and loans, and now we are buried in loans, and now we are turning around and paying those loans. We have to pay them,
Yeah.
and paying debt is paying a debt is important. We need to pay them down, but in paying them down, we need to stop taking loans. We need to stop it, and how we stop it is, number one, we need to have a debt ceiling done. The National Assembly need to set a debt ceiling whereby the government cannot pass that. Once they get to that level, no more loans. So they have to work with what they have, and we do have enough revenue being generated in the country to serve our country if we just cut down our expenses out. The expenses, the lavish spending, the unnecessary, I'll call them unnecessary expenses. And sometimes we we well, for the most part, I would also say that in Gambia they don't have the financial discipline. They don't have the discipline to cut their coat according to a size, because Gambia being such a small country, and such a poor country and a struggling economy, we need to look at that when we make the budget, and they need to look at that and do what is extremely necessary, and do away things that really are not bringing anything to the table to the taxpayers. This is how they can take some funds and reallocate them to things that are very of essential importance. Healthcare, you mentioned healthcare too. Healthcare is paramount, is of paramount importance. We cannot ignore healthcare. We all know that any person in the country needs healthcare. We need good healthcare. We need to establish that in our country so that people don't have to go out to seek medical attention somewhere, medical help somewhere else. Number two, so that every individual in the country can also afford healthcare in the country. Very, very important. So spending money on healthcare is important, and then spending money on things that will generate more revenue and allow us to live within our income is important, like agriculture. Allow us to grow job opportunities for the youths. Investing in agriculture is very important. If they invest in agriculture, we can get very good returns out of agriculture if it's well managed. But that being well managed is a challenge in the Gambia. Not only that, and like I said, a financial discipline is key. People are buying things, or the government is spending money on things that really shouldn't. And not only that, they are overpaying things as well because of the individual inflation that they add in there, because of all that boils down to corruption. And corruption kills us. Corruption is killing us. And that corruption is why when they were buying vehicles, a vehicle that should cost 2 to 3 million was was purchased at a higher amount. Why? In any government that I know of, even the U.S. government, there is always a government rate. A government rate, and when the government is buying stuff, they get discounts. When the government books airline tickets, they use government rate. When the government buy vehicles and they stay in hotels, they use government rate. So every government has the capability of negotiating to get a better deal, which is normally better than what an average, what you and I would buy. If you
Right.
and I want to buy a brand new car and a government representative call and want to buy the same car, they should get a better deal, not you and I as individuals. So, but instead, what we're seeing, we saw that flipped around. The government is actually paying more money than necessary. So, and the reason for that is the kickbacks that they want to get. They over inflate the price so that they can get some leftover or kickback into that from that money, and use it on individuals, which is bad. Which is bad. So I'll commend the National Assembly for taking this step. This is a step that's way long overdue. That should have been done years ago. But now that they're doing it, we can only commend them from taking the step and looking into the budget and asking the government to reduce, not only reduce but save some money. So they saved 10 million, and then also reallocate the 6.6 million to something else, other sectors, and hopefully those other sectors include health. In fact, I would say that health is definitely a priority. They shouldn't. The whole 6 million can go into health.
Yeah.
Just like that, because that's that's something everybody benefits from. Everybody benefits from health.
benefit from that.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, thank you, Sam, for that.
yeah.
It looks like also the Foni Nam, National
Hmm.
Assembly member, also suggested to the other National Assembly member to reject the salary increase. So Bakari Baji
Yeah.
is a National Assembly member for Foni Bintang, and he asked his
Hmm.
fellow parliamentarians to reject a salary increase for lawmakers that were proposed for 2026. So, according to the 2026 budget, budget estimate, the National Assembly's budget will be increased from 422 million to 569 million.
Wow.
That's a huge
That's a
increase.
huge jump. Yeah.
So, the basic salary is also proposed to increase from 74,000. Now they make 74 and change.
Hmm.
Approved for 2025 to 115. These people are joking, man. Masam, these people are
How
joking.
how can they justify that?
Yeah. So
I don't understand.
our National Assembly members are not doing anything good for our country. Basically, I have to be honest to you.
Yep.
They look at
I
all the
agree.
bad laws we have, all the lawmakers. Like, look at all the stuff that are happening. They were not even able to achieve anything. Okay, I look at the anti-corruption bill and all the constitution. Look at all these laws that are there. So why would we be paying a National Assembly member for 115,000 a year? Where is that money coming from? And again, this is the same question that comes to my mind. Who is paying for this? What are they
Yep.
doing? What is the output that could bring us justification for the, for
Well,
the, for the, for the, for the, for this pay?
yep. Yep. Now, if you look at this, um, if you look at it, and number one, I said, how can they justify that? Because in my
They
mind,
cannot. They
yeah,
cannot.
in my mind, I would increase salary for the low earning workers. Those who are at the very bottom should be the ones that need a pay increase, not those who are already high up there. Not only that, they are getting some other unnecessary allowances that they don't deserve. Number one, because the country cannot afford that, and number two is outrageous, is uncalled for. Because if you look at government officials, if you look at National Assembly members, we are paying them that 74 current salary is 74 plus 74,000. All right, let's call it 74,000. If they're getting 74,000 a month as salary, they they are getting a vehicle allowance. I saw that Father Camara wrote this, and I made a comment on it and on Facebook, and I thanked her for bringing it up as well, because this is something I talked about in the past as well. The government is giving um, these officials, well, number one, remember we bought them very expensive vehicles that they couldn't afford on their own. They would not have been able to buy that individually on their own. We
Right.
bought those vehicles for them. And on top of having the vehicles that we bought for them, we're giving them a vehicle allowance. What for? That is very contradictory. You cannot have a government vehicle and still get a vehicle allowance. Vehicle allowance is for people that don't have a government vehicle and they are required to travel on government expenses, travel on government businesses using their personal vehicles. If you have to use your personal vehicle to conduct government vehicle or company vehicle anywhere around the world, you are required or you will be reimbursed for using your vehicle, right? Because you're
Right.
using your personal vehicle. The government didn't issue you a vehicle. But if the government issues you a vehicle, then you don't get any allowance for vehicle. That's it. Period. Then what's that? That's double. That's double dipping. Yeah, that's what's called double dipping. You're getting the money for it, but you also already have a vehicle. It should be either or. We
Right.
either take all the vehicles away from them and give them vehicle allowance, or leave them with the vehicles and take the vehicle allowance away. This is the right thing to do. They should not have both. But I don't understand. This is why I said unnecessary spending, because we have ways that we can cut our budget big time. Our budget, Gambia budget, should not be hitting where it is hitting now. Part of the reason
Exactly.
is a lot of it is on unnecessary expenses that we are creating, self creating expenses that are not necessary, and they could all be cut. You know, I think what they need to look at is do a competitive pricing and price survey or salary survey across the board. Look at all the West African sub-region and look at what the National Assembly members make. Look at their standards, their economy, and then look at ours, make some comparisons, and determine what is good for Gambia, what is the best fit for Gambia, and not necessarily adopting what the highest is paying. If the highest is paying more, but the economy is 3 times better than us, we cannot follow them and also pay more. We need to look at, like I said earlier, we need to cut the coat according to our size. We need to look at what we can afford and pay our people that. Yes, everybody deserves a paycheck, a pay increase. Everybody wants a pay increase. But there are some that are out there, like the teachers, the firefighters, the nurses, the people in the public sector that are working very hard and earning very little amount. People that can't even afford, they cannot even make ends meet. These are the people we need to look back at and increase their salary so they can be able to, so they can afford to live with their families, right? And they so they can afford the expenses of their family without getting into luxury, just the basic necessities, food and shelter, medical, and things like that. We need to increase those people's salary and not those who are already making more and getting all kinds of allowances that they shouldn't be getting in the first place, and they asking for a salary increase. No, no, I would say no to that. If I were there, I would against it myself too. I would that absolutely no. At this point in our country, from the National Assembly members going up to the president, nobody should be receiving any salary increase. No one. If
Yeah.
anything, if anything, the president's
Yes.
salary should actually be reduced. Should be reduced. The president's salary should be reduced, and then take some of that money and pay the bottom earners, the ones that are at the very bottom, the teachers, the nurses, the firefighters, the police officers, the army, the paramilitary. These are the people that need to be paid more and more and more, and people in such conditions. The lower grade, everyone in the bottom three grades should be the ones that should be uplifted. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And then that brings us to this point of reducing the president's budget, because if you look at the president, he has everything. He don't pay for nothing, right?
Yeah,
Most
we
of
pay
the
everything for him.
Yeah, everything
Yep.
is paid for. So even his allowances, his medical, everything. So if you look at his budget, it should be really reduced because most of the things is not paying for them. Now, there's also a raise in the way the heavy loans spending is going by the National Assembly. One of the National Assembly
Hmm.
member pointed out in the data-driven intervention um, during 2026 budget debate when they were having a debate. His name is Lamin Ceesay, National Assembly member for Kiang West.
Yeah.
He said that looking at the government physical spending priorities, he said that we should be looking at the loans and where they are allocated, loans and the development projects that were allocated for. Because if you there's no visible results that is
Hmm.
coming from all these loans, the
Yep.
output is not visible. And this
Yep.
is that's why you need the analysis. There is this approach when you're doing in leadership
Hmm.
consultation, where
Yep.
you have to have goal settings in every 6 months or 3 months.
Yep.
You
Yep.
gotta look at assess what whether those goals have been met.
Yep.
So those evaluations need to be done departmentally across the board.
Yep.
I don't know if the Gambian government has those protocol in place. At least there should be an assessment. You don't wait until the end of the year and you come on
Yep.
and assess your goal settings or
Yep.
your outputs, right?
Yep.
So that's what
Yep.
this Nam is saying, Mr. Ceesay, Ceesay is saying. He
Okay.
said that the ministry should ensure that the budget submission align with national strategic plan and development ceiling. You know,
Yep. Yep.
so this is
So
very important. He said that this budget must reflect. He said that this budget that they have must reflect more than numbers. And then he also said that it must reflect the needs of our people. And he also calling the parliament to return budgets that fail to address the core mandates such as healthcare, education, gender equality, and welfare of people with disabilities. So these
absolutely.
are areas that are on the spread on the focus, and these are areas that were neglected. So
Yep.
hey, look at the basic secondary education has been allocated 6 billion. Basic secondary education 6 billion. So out of
Yep.
that 6 billion, um, 4.5 billion is for recurrent expenses, expenditures, recurrent
Reoccurrence.
expenditures.
Yeah. Yeah.
4.5 recurrence expenditures, and then 1.5 is 1.6 is for billion is for developmental. So you put more money on recurrent expenditures, which is 4.5, and you put less money on developmental, which is 1.5 billion on
Yeah.
developmental.
Yeah. That
So
that
this recurrence expenditure, this is where the loopholes are to steal money. These are where the loopholes are to make up numbers, ghost employees. These are the where the loopholes are, because nobody recurrence expenditures means something that happens all the time, like salary gets paid all the time.
yep.
uh,
Salaries.
certain,
Yeah.
certain things, vacation. I mean, like this what do you call per diems get per diems get taken all the time. So those are recurrence expenditures, and that one is triples the developmental agendas. So he broke down other sectors, which is the Ministry of Health also faces similar problem. They have 4.4 and 1.5 billion, and then allocated, right, which is only 735 million is directed. 735 million out of the 1.6 billion. So only 700, I'm sorry, only 435 million is allocated for developmental. And guess what the rest is going to?
Yeah.
The one
Reoccurrence.
point the 1.4 million is going on ongoing costs. What are these ongoing costs?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
recurrent
Well.
costs, ongoing costs. So he looked at all these sectors and he made it, in the National Assembly, that this is a joke.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, this is a joke. We are putting expenses on things that we cannot account for, and the developmental ones we are putting little bit money. So
Yep.
this is what need to be revamped in Gambia. This is what need to be changed. And as a president, this is areas that you need to change.
Yep.
You need to look at all those other extra expenses, ongoing expenses, and streamline those. Then you divide it on developmental, projects, especially
Yep.
social development like education, health, women equality, and then or agriculture and other things. But they're not doing that. They've always find a loophole where money could be stolen. And this is why it's important, for Gambian government to start, focusing on financial responsibility, transparency, and looking at all these departments and see what their output is. Because there hasn't been much visible result. If you look at Gambian government, who can feel like who can feel in the country, citizens, you ask them, do a survey, they have good medical care? No. Who can feel that they they are going to bed full? Average Gambians are not going to bed. eating well. In fact, if it is not for diaspora, most people would be starving. Diaspora, they are the feeding tube for
Yep.
Gambian populace.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. The way
Absolutely.
things are going, like if half of the diasporans return back home, they're not here, their family will be starving. So that's why we are not even seeing the impact. But the Gambian government is not creating anything that is lifting the life of the family. That is nothing. And all this money have been spent. And he also mentioned that, instead of focusing on loans, we should be focusing on grants. Because grants are mostly not payable. You are given, and you're probably going to give given, without, if you spend it the way you need to spend it, probably wouldn't have to pay back. But if you're taking loans, and then loans on things that is not bringing returns, guess what happened? You first you will fail because you will not be doing any developmental projects. Secondly, you are owing more money because those loans comes with interest. Yeah, but I'll let you comment on this
Yep.
area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very important. Like I said earlier, to the financial discipline is the key word here. We don't have the financial discipline in the Gambia. Otherwise, all of these things would not have happened and would not be happening. So, financial discipline is very important, and I think it's very important. It all comes from the top. When the top knows exactly what to do, some of these would not happen. But the president doesn't know, and I know that he doesn't know some of these things because sometimes that's why in my comprehensive civil service reform, I said that when you hire people, you hire them looking at their PAR, past experience, accomplishments, and results, so that you can get the right people in the right places that will do the right thing for you. Without having that, people will be working in a blind, in blind, just spending money. The money is there because the money is there. Well, and what we have seen in the Gambia also, even the president's office, when he is given a certain amount of money as his budget, he will do way more. He'll spend way more than that. That's lack of financial discipline, and that trickles down to all the ministries. They give them a certain amount, and they spend way more than that because you know why? There's no transparency. There's no financial discipline. And when I say financial discipline is, I've said this in my WhatsApp audios before, multiple times. For example, when a budget is done at the beginning of the year, once the budget is approved and set and going, and at the beginning of the year is when you start to hold yourself accountable every month. So when we go till January 31st, then we get into February. By middle of February, January books should all be closed. When January books get closed, every minister need to be able to stand in front of of the cabinet and explain their budget. They should be able to say, "Here is my budget. This is what we've spent so far, according to January statement, and here's what we're left with." This allows them to look at their goals, and number one, if they are achieving their goals, and number two, are they staying within the budget?
Mhm.
Because if you see that your January being the first month of the year, you've already overspent your budget a certain amount, because you have to divide and break that budget down into for the whole 12 months, especially when it comes to expenses. If the expenses in your budget, the expense line says you spend just a basic example. If a ministry is supposed to spend $1 million as an expense per month, February 15th, they look at their budget by looking at the statement, financial statements, and they see that they've already spent 1.5 million. That's an indication that this is a no. This cannot continue, because if you continue that way, by the end of the year, you're projecting to do way more than what you budgeted for.
Right.
So that's when they need to take a time out and say, in that's when the president should say, well, you've already spent half of what you should have spent in February, in January. So now you need to start cutting. That's when you need to have the discipline and cut what you spend in January, what you overspent in January, start cutting it down in February so that you don't hit the February budget.
Exactly.
And then and so on and so forth, so that by the end of the year you stay within the budget. And that's how you discipline yourself to stay within that budget and not overspend. If every ministry is doing this, there is a chance that we can balance the budget almost to the T. But
Right.
this is I don't think this is happening, because if it's happening, we shouldn't be going over the budget. Yeah. So the reoccurring expenses, yes, you're right. Their reoccurring expenses include salary. Yeah, everybody has to be paid salary. They have to pay internet for their office. They have to pay electricity and water for their offices. They have to pay fuel costs for their vehicles and things like that. But what needs to happen in the budget line, uh, they should be able to drill it down, because there should be subsections in that budget. If you're saying reoccurring, if I were the leader, I am not going to accept reoccurring expenses, one line, and here is the amount. No, I don't want that. I want to see the breakdown. Give me the breakdown. I need to be able to take my mouse and click on the drop down and see reoccurring expense, salaries, utilities, vehicle fuel consumption, vehicle maintenance. I need to be able to see what goes into each, and also make comparisons to the prior year. I want to see prior year numbers so I can compare this year's numbers and see what the difference are, what the delta is, and all of that. I mean, I used to be an analyst. So I know how to analyze numbers very well. I need to be able to put filters on them and break everything down and look at it. And then you will be able to find something that does not make sense and question, what is this? Why don't we have it in 2024? But this year we have it as recurrent. But that never happened in 2024. So that need to be removed. That cannot happen. It cannot be a recurrent expense. So that's how you can catch a lot of things. But like I said, the key word here is the financial discipline. This is what we don't have. This is what our government is not utilizing. They may know it and deliberately going against it, or they may just not know it, or they don't care. They just want to spend the money. That's it, because it was given to them. So this is where the National Assembly comes, by putting their foot down and say no to certain things. No, we're not approving this budget because it's outrageous, because it doesn't make sense, because it doesn't support our taxpayers. So that's where that is. And I think last but not the least, the government really need to prioritize. I've always said this before. Prioritization is very important. To prioritize. We know that if I look at Gambia today, I can count more than 10 things that are very important. I mean, you look at every area, there's importance in there. You look at every area, you know that we need some things, but we need to prioritize. What is our goal this year? What are we going to hit in 2026? What do we want to accomplish in 2026? Let's put our focus on that. Let's budget, give that section a better budget so that we can accomplish that. And that budget needs to be looked at every month, month after month after month, until the end of the year, so we can say, yep, we stayed within the budget and we've accomplished our mission. You
Exactly.
cannot, you cannot budget 25 million. Just an example, you cannot budget 25 million for something that nobody tracks. At the end of the year, you come up and said we spent 75 million for that. Something that was budgeted for 25, but we spent 75 million. How did that happen? Well,
Exactly.
whoever is the head of that department does not know what their job is. That person should not be there. Yeah, because they're not
Exactly.
doing their job. That's it. So, but that's how I look at things. Like I said, I've dealt with numbers. I've been an analyst where I dealt with millions. I look at millions in revenue. I mean, this is not $1 million, but millions in dollars, US dollars,
Dollars, yeah.
you know, and and uh, and I looked at expenses, you know, so it's very important. It's very sad. It's very sad that a poor country like Gambia is going through this, and people are not being held accountable.
Exactly.
That's the end of the day. Yep.
Yeah. So in order to summarize, we have looked at the president's expenses and what the NAMs did to reduce it. So 16 million, which 10 is 10 million
Should be saved. Yep.
they saved, and then the 6 million will be used other sectors that are deficiency, especially in healthcare would be one of the sectors that I would recommend. So we kudos to the NAMs for doing that.
Yep.
And we also looked at the salary increase for other areas. Um, in the National Assembly who want a salary jump, which is rejected. Which is there's one now who rejected that proposal and recommended others to reject it, whereby moving the salary from 74,000 to 115. And this is also happening in other sectors, the judiciary and other sectors. Everybody's like want their budgets to increase, want their salary to increase, want their allowance to increase, and all these things is gonna take a hit, debt, personal debt. And there's this philosophy in the US here: you have to balance the budget. Balance the budget means what has to go out, what has to go out most much, what has to come in. But if there is no visible, no notable revenues coming in, then what is the point? What is the point? So this is where we need to work on. So I would suggest, you know the government to revisit all what they are looking to do, and then trying to look at this, keep cutting on areas that need to be sliced, and reallocating funds to other areas as well. So that would be my take. Sam, your final words on this.
Yep. Final word is, yeah, this is an important topic. You know, is about our economy. Basically, you know, that's what we're talking about, our economy. And a special thanks to the National Assemblies, Assembly members for taking the step to cut the budget. Like I said earlier, is long overdue, but they did it this year. So thank you, and thank you for doing that. Even though, in my opinion, is not enough. They should look into more cuts in the budget, and moving forward and implement those to be able to save our country. At the same time, the salary increases that one NAM opposes, I really appreciate his view on this and the viewpoint on that. I totally agree. Salary increase for the top, and while the bottom suffers, and especially when the farmers go to farm their peanuts and groundnuts, and struggle to get paid for that. So I don't see why salary increases for the top should happen. The salary increase should be for the bottom. The ones that are struggling the most are the ones that deserve the salary increase, and cap off every single person on the top, like I said, from the parliament level going up to the directors, to the ministries, to the judges, to the president. All of them need to be capped off. They should not have any salary increase while the bottom is continuing to suffer there. So at the end of the day, is the prioritization that needs to happen while maintaining financial discipline. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yep.
You cannot say it any better than that. I'm telling you, it all comes down to cutting costs, you know, prioritizing, and also looking at where we need to move, the money, because if you don't focus on analyzing where the funds need to go and prioritizing, then you're gonna end up like what the other National Assembly member was saying, Mr. Ceesay. You're gonna end up spending more on reoccurring, expenses, on ongoing expenses, which is never going to stop. That could always getting expanded, and neglecting the developmental aspect of it. So this is why the NAM, they need to constantly look at the budget and look at what are critical to the country, what are the priorities, and what are the things that will give us more, more output than input. And then this is when, balancing the budgets, looking at, how to cut costs, and then looking at where the revenues can be increased, where to invest this money, so that we can have a lot of, national output, and then and can be productive as a country, and of course, as a civil servant, we should be able to evaluate on a month, on every 3 months or every 6 months, evaluate our performance and see whether the performance of the goal settings are met, or where we need to get improvement. So these are all good things that we need to apply it in every sector across the country. So I think this government need to really, really a lot of work. Instead of politicizing things, we built this here. We're gonna take money and do anything we can to make sure we bring development. But development is good, but how? How are you gonna bring development? And what are the end results? Are you borrowing more money, or are you trying to save more money and still meet the same result? So this is where strategic planning comes into place. This is where knowledge come into place. You bring economics that can look at things and give you a realistic analysis of what is needed to get us where we need to be. Yes, Gambian is, we are, free from dictatorship, kind of, and we are, people are more open now for a lot of, different reasons. But when it comes to financial independence, we're still not there. The country is struggling. The people are struggling, in every sectors. They are feeling it. So now is the time to cut costs instead of National Assembly asking salary increase. They need to even have a salary decrease, because truthfully, if I have to assess their work, I wouldn't even give them, a B. I would give them a C plus, C minus, something like that, because National Assembly hasn't done much work over the years. That's why we have all these bad laws. That's where we are. We have all these things that are happening within the country. Even look at Jammeh's immunity debate. You know, it was raised in the National Assembly talking about somebody who TRR revealed had killed, or he was responsible for all these killings, because the order was coming from him. And now you're talking about the the immunity that he puts in 1997 Constitution. You want to debate that? Why would you even bring that to the national debate? That should have been scrapped out since he left the presidency. So the National Assembly is not no, it's not doing really well in all those sectors. So they need to reevaluate themselves and try to be more of a lawmaking body instead of political bodies. They need more training. They need to, become impartial, and stop the partisanship. Because if you become partisan and you are there for your party agendas only, how can you be there for the country's agenda, the people's agenda? So you have to separate the two. But if you look at what had happened with our constitution, what had happened? The partisan they did the partisan politics, and it failed twice. And Gambia is without a new constitution. And the old constitution, which is 1997 constitution, is not doing well. It's not doing well for us. Look at the time limit. Now we had to allow, the president had to, take this bold decision that he's going to run, because his party is a baby. He need to babysit the party. What is that a reason for somebody to run for an office? It should have been his job to recruit people who are going to come after him. But now he has to do that. So there's a lot of things that are going wrong. Even our flag bearership, that should have been having time limits set to that. Look at what the situation in UDP it led to. One person running for 6 times, and then now other people had to leave because they felt like they don't have a chance to lead that party. So all these laws need to be changed internally and outside. Externally. So this is why we are struggling as a nation, and I guess our viewers, you will definitely have something to take away from our this analysis. Again, we're supposed to have two guests today, but they couldn't make it. One has his child sick in the hospital, and the other one is traveling from another distance. But we stay in touch and share, and then definitely make comments, and then we will definitely catch up on next week Sunday. Sam, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you. And thank you for your time as well.
yeah, it was a good area to
Yep.
speak about.
Good conversations. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And yep. And I look forward to next week. So thank you.
All right.
And
Have a
wish
wonderful
you a
Thanksgiving on Thursday
yep.
with your family.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well and your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. All right
All
then.
right. Thank you, all viewers. Thank you.